I think this is one of the most stunning White House pressers we've seen, where the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, takes the presser in a very sick and depraved direction. I want to play you a bunch of clips on different topics, starting with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. That one particularly infuriated me. The answer that she gave, then talks of escalating things with Iran, and so many other moments. Let's go through it piece by piece, starting with this. Again, this is America's spokeswoman. And this is what she's delivering to the world. A disgusting both sides-ism, as I'll explain in a moment. If you appreciate the show as we go through it, please do click the subscribe button. We're at a little travel setup right now as we are traveling.
Are ongoing. I obviously will not get ahead of the president or his team, but I think the president has been quite clear that he's been continually frustrated with both sides of this conflict, and he wants to see this fighting end. He wants the war to end. We believe we have leverage in negotiating a deal, to a peace deal, and we're going to use that leverage. And the president is determined to see this through.
That might sound just totally benign, but hear what she said, which is, we are frustrated with both sides. Right now, in this moment, a ceasefire, temporary ceasefire, has been proposed to both sides. Do you know who unconditionally accepted it? Ukraine. Do you know who is not accepting it and is making absurd demands that would cripple the Ukrainian defense of themselves in the future, that would make it perfect for Russia to invade again? Russia. Russia. To put it in language maybe Trump can understand. And still, because they're so petrified of Putin, they still are doing this. Both sides are irritating us. There is no both sides. You can't, that's not a logical argument. There's literally one side that completely agreed to ending the war, and one side that keeps invading and slaughtering people. And she doesn't have the courage, the spine, because Trump doesn't, to just speak truth. Now, before going on to other, somehow even more stunning parts of this press conference, because we're on the topic of that, here's the update. Steve Witkoff just went to meet with Putin again, and look at, like a giddy little schoolboy meeting his hero as Putin walks in the room. Oh my gosh. Hi. I had a photo of you behind my clothes in my closet. That's what I did with musicians. I didn't want people to know that I liked. And I looked at you every day and I thought, Putin, you're so strong. What you put your hand over your heart for, Steve? I am never washing this hand again. Oh my gosh. So cringy. Why do I have this attitude towards Trump's Russian envoy, Steve Witkoff? Well, among other reasons, this is how he spoke of his last meeting with Putin.
What did you think of him? I liked him. Yep. I thought he was straight up with me. Of course, by the way, I've said that. And you can imagine, by the way, I say that, I get pilloried. Oh my gosh. You're actually...
He liked him. He liked him as murderer. What's the problem? Now, sometimes the lazy response from defenders of MAGA, when someone like Witkoff will say that, when he'll say, I kind of love Putin.
I love you back.
They will respond with, that clip's iconic, I love you back. They'll respond with, oh, wow, so you can't thoughtfully engage in diplomacy with bad, even murderers? No, of course you should. Of course you should. If we can get long-standing peace, you absolutely still have to engage with Putin to facilitate that, of course. But you don't have to lie. You don't have to, again, be so blinded by, he took me in like a really nice, like Bill Maher went to the White House to see Trump, and all he raved about was not that he asked Trump, hey, why are you targeting people in these different ways? Hey, why are you sicking your DOJ on Christopher Krebs and Miles Taylor because they dared to speak out against your election lies? Hey, why'd you try to steal the election last time? Hey, why are you tanking the entire global economy for no reason? Hey, why do you still not know what tariffs are? Hey, right, it wasn't for that purpose. It was, all he talked about, Bill Maher, was, I never got to go to the White House. It was really cool. And and he showed me his bed where he goes bedtime. And similar thing here. Oh, I'm so wowed by Putin and his strength. Hey, let's just grow up for a second. He's the reason thousands of people have died, and his own people. He's failed his own country, he's failed Ukraine, he's failed the world. So just be an adult and stop with this weird giddiness. The giddiness is as rational as whatever the heck this couple thought they were doing. You could see, I'll describe for our podcast listeners, a car pulled past as the train track blockers dropped, then tries to raise it. And then in a truly husband moment, it appears the husband got out of the car and walked away as the wife was still in the car, thinking the train just might hit the car. That is as rational as Steve Witkoff's obsession and admiration for Putin. Because he likes him, he says. Now, there's just blatant lying. We can't be numb to this. This is just absolutely turning the world upside down. Caroline Levitt says there's a lot of optimism in our economy when we have near historic pessimism. Take optimism, flip it, twist it, bop it, and you have what we have in our economy, which is pessimism.
And out of respect for our good friend Peter. Jeff.
Why is American consumer confidence so low?
Look, I think there's a great optimism in this economy, great optimism for the American people, a lot of reason for people to feel optimistic. The president is, as I just said, trying to renegotiate the global trade.
Okay. Well, yeah, we get it. Why is there so much pessimism? No, there's optimism. Right. But from the standpoint of what there is, why is there so much pessimism? No, but there's optimism. Really? CNN reports U.S. consumer sentiment plummets to second lowest level on record going back to 1952. There's a lot of optimism because of Trump's actions unilaterally. It was improving consumer sentiment. Okay, finally, we got through this pandemic. And whatever people thought of Biden, he clearly handled the recovery actually really effectively. Eventually, we'll tell that story in history. And Trump comes in, people are hyped. Really, truly, he won. I wasn't, but people were going, yeah, it's gonna work. He's the economy guy. He did so good with his businesses. We love him. And then he actually started doing stuff and unilaterally tanked people's belief in the economy for good reason. Americans are rarely this pessimistic about the economy. Wait, but CNN, what about Levitt saying there's a lot of optimism? Does that change your stance? Consumer sentiment plunged 11% this month to a preliminary reading of 50.8, the University of Michigan said in its latest survey released Friday. The second lowest reading on records going back to 1952. April's reading was lower than anything seen during the Great Recession. One more time. April's reading was lower than anything seen during the Great Recession. Not the good recession. Not the aight recession, not the fine recession, the Great Recession, the big boy. Trumped only by the Great Depression. And even compared to the Great Recession, people are more pessimistic right now, despite what she's saying. Stephen Ratner points out that inflation expectations from the University of Michigan survey haven't been this high since 1981. And then one other graphic, even Republicans, you can see here, March saw a big drop in how Republicans feel about the state of the U.S. economy. You can see that visualized here. Much excitement when Trump won, and then utter and complete collapse there. Again, for good reason. Then about the individual that the Trump administration admitted they wrong. Think about how sick what you're about to hear is. That the Trump administration admitted they wrongfully deported, but then started saying, well, but he is a gang member convicted. Wait, really? Because there's no record of that. Well, but, and the Supreme Court saying that the Trump administration needs to facilitate his return in some strange language legally. Caroline Levitt says this.
Real quick, the president of El Salvador is coming to the White House on Monday. Does President Trump want him to bring Kilmar Abrego Garcia with him?
The Supreme Court made their ruling last night very clear that it's the administration's responsibility to facilitate the return, not to effectuate the return. I believe the Department of Justice just filed another brief in the lower court. I would defer you to that for any updates. But as you mentioned, President Bukele will be here at the White House on Monday.
So have Bukele bring Abrigo Garcia. Have him bring him. Right now he's rotting away in a prison camp in El Salvador, as you admitted wrongfully. And then you said, we acknowledge that it was a mistake clerically, but it was also just a clerical mistake. So like, we're not going to return him. But also the Supreme Court said facilitate the return, but not effectuate. So we're not going to effectuate it, but we'll facilitate it. So that's that. Then you have the Iran talk that if a deal is not made on the nuclear, the nukes, then escalation is around the corner.
Security team will as well, that all options are on the table, and Iran has a choice to make. You can agree to President Trump's demand, or there will be all hell to pay, and that's how the president feels. He feels very strongly about it.
There does seem to be some within the Trump White House, as were there before, who are hungry for war with Iran. And the idea of, amid the economic woes and the other foreign policy woes, for that to be unleashed would indeed be hell. It would be hell. Then we get to stuff that makes me want to vomit, which is this weird, first it'll be Levitt, but then it'll be a reporter salivating over how Trump's so fit and his stamina.
Undertaking, there's no doubt about it. We take it very seriously. The president is determined to renegotiate global trade on behalf of American workers. And again, you've seen people on both sides of the aisles calling for this for years, but I think no other president lacked the courage or maybe the work ethic or the stamina to take on such a task.
I didn't even notice until just now. She had a Freudian slip there and said, no other president lacked the courage. Listen.
To the aisles calling for this for years, but I think no other president lacked the courage or maybe the work ethic or the stamina to take on such a task.
No, I mean, finally, she accidentally spoke the truth. No other president lacked the courage or the stamina. True. To do what Trump is now doing. But then a reporter, and I winced at even calling them that, a propagandist, a cheerleader who they let into the press room and sort of cosplayed as a reporter, said, Trump is looking, can you say this? Trump is, sorry, it's tough. Trump is looking healthier than ever before. Is he working out with a Bobby?
President's physician will do that. I spoke with him this morning.
Caroline, will you guys also consider releasing the president's fitness plan? He actually looks healthier than ever before. Healthier than he did 8 years ago, and I'm sure everybody in this room could agree. Is he working out with Bobby Kennedy? And is he eating less McDonald's?
I can confirm the president is in very good shape, as you see on a near daily basis here. And in that vein, thank God it's Friday. It's been a very long and busy week here at the White House. We will see you all on Monday, and we will release the results of that report as soon as we can.
That's it? That's the end of the press briefing? And on that, excuse me, Madam Press Secretary, why is Trump so strong and healthy? Why is he so... I wonder with these people, we all have dreams when we grow up. And you imagine, I'm going to go out there and fight for truth. I'm going to fight for a cause. I'm going to... yes, maybe get success, but it's going to be because I'm doing journalism. Like, there's dreamers. Did that lady, I don't know who she is, but did that quote unquote reporter wake up one day and say, I want to break the cringe meter. I just want to crush it by pretending like Trump looks healthier than ever. We will talk about a different segment, the cognitive test. And that whole thing playing out again. But it's not just her who does this weird propagandist. A lot of times people respond with just photos of North Korean state TV anchors or GIFs or GIFs. GIFs and GIFs. I've seen both of them. Like up on their news desk being like, Kim Jong-un's amazing. And that's what this is. I mean, Kayleigh McEnany here is saying, I trust the art of the deal, man, even though someone ghost wrote that book.
That China was taking advantage of us. And look at where we are. We finally have someone in the White House saying enough is enough. And it happens to be the guy who authored The Art of the Deal. I'm going to peg my money on the guy authoring The Art of the Deal. And to Mark Levin's point, he said maybe this will be...
Okay, maybe put your money on the guy who wrote The Art of the Deal, but go find him because it's not Trump. And this sort of cringy, uncomfortable lavishing of praise on Trump when it's not justified, it makes me almost, not more, but almost as comfortable as Ben Shapiro, the right-wing commentator notoriously, reading the lyrics of the song WAP by poet Cardi B.
Whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. There's some whores in this house. Hold up. I said certified freak 7 days a week. Wet ass P-word. Make that pull-out game weak. P-word. P-word is female genitalia. And continue along these
right.
lines.
We'll stop it. I'm almost as uncomfortable when watching How is Trump the healthiest ever as when I watch that. And speaking of Fox News, the birds are fed up with Fox News.
A bird just landed on my head. What is going on? Was that a bird? What was that about? I did not like that at all. The back of your head, your hair is standing up now.
I mean, you got good hair, though.
What is going on? That's probably so dirty.
I had to be scared.
That's probably so dirty. It's like Ben Shapiro's WAP reading. I actually sympathize with that. Was funny, but I do sympathize with growing up. People would tell me, Luke, be manly, be a man, hair on your chest, black coffee, go get in cold water, and then you'll be a man. And you have to be a man. And one of the things about being a man is you can't flinch at stuff for some reason. It was a natural evolutionary thing to make sure you don't get hit. But I've realized I never feel more emasculated, which is something I'm very concerned with, than when a bird flies. It could be 60 feet away from me and I still flinch. They just are kind of freaky. Do you know what I mean? So I do get, and yeah, dirty. They're dirty. I don't want a dirty bird all over me. Then similar to there's so much optimism in the economy at a different point during this press briefing. A reporter asked, hey, so you're saying you're optimistic about a deal with China, but it doesn't seem you're making progress and actually it's just escalating further and further and further. And now China's up past 100% tariff on our imports. We're past 100% tariff on their imports, which is an economic nightmare, and not leveraging a deal, it seems, but instead just doing a male genitalia. They call it male genitalia, size contest. And Levitt just tried to go, no. There's optimism.
Why is he optimistic that China's going to make a deal or wants to make a deal if they're not talking? Where's that optimism come
He's
from?
optimistic.
Oh, Luke, that doesn't even make sense. Luke, why didn't you do the dishes? They are the dishes are on. There's optimism that's going to happen. Just no acknowledgement. Wait, but why? Okay, you're optimism. Why are you optimistic? Because we're not. Or because we're optimistic. No, right, but why, though? Because we have optimism is why we're optimistic. Well, thank you for nothing. Then this.
Hey, why would any of our allies work with us to isolate China in a trade war if we're treating friend and foe alike?
You'll have to talk to our allies who are reaching out to us. The phones are ringing off of the hooks. They've made it very clear they need the United States of America. They need our markets. They need our consumer base. You saw Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the Oval Office with the president saying that he was going to bring down all of their monetary tariffs and their non-monetary tariff trade barriers.
Yes, we heard. Netanyahu doing cheerleading for Trump is not surprising, or it doesn't make me feel much better. Now, that was a really good question that I honestly haven't brought up, but what is the incentive for the world, our allies, to unite with us against China and try to economically strengthen ourselves, maybe at the expense or maybe not, but definitely in our interests compared to China? Why would you believe that would happen if you're treating a lot of our friends like they're our adversaries? Not to mention the penguins. You're never going to get the penguins to unite with you if you keep tariffing them. That's not fair. So that it's really an important question, because as long as you don't seem to distinguish whether it's in foreign policy with Ukraine and Russia, or whether it's in trade policy with you started targeting Canada and Mexico the hardest for a while, why do they have a reason to trust us to maybe take a few economic blows to unite in opposition to China if that's your goal? If you're treating them in many cases like they're our adversary already, it doesn't make any sense. Share your thoughts in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video.